all of our cross-chain products, will now become relevant to Cardano. So the next major upgrade that you're probably going to see in terms of the Cardano bridge is that we'll move beyond just token bridges. So right now, we're moving things like BTC and USDT, USDC, etc. We can also do NFTs. The next piece will be general cross-chain message passing. So we're kind of rolling that out. We're rolling it bit by bit on different chains, but now that Cardano is part of that, it's going to make it to Cardano as well.
What is going on, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central. My name is Fareed. To my left, I've got Tem representing the Wanchain Bridge, which recently expanded over into Cardano. Tem, welcome to the Cardano Summit. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the channel. I've really enjoyed, being here. I've joined a few Cardano events in the past, but it's nice to see some friendly faces and also meet new, developers and just community members in general.
Yeah, this has been an eye-opening experience for myself. This is actually my first one. I've been in the Cardano ecosystem for about 2 years or so, but I missed the last Cardano Summit. Now, after being at this one, I don't think I'm going to be missing any more coming up in the near future. Now, that said, let's jump into Wanchain and a little bit about yourself. Do you mind maybe giving us a little bit about your background and then talking about what Wanchain is and what they're planning to do in terms of decentralized bridging?
Sure. I can give it just a few words about myself. So my name is Temujin. Everyone calls me Tem. I got into blockchain back in 2012, 2013. I was a grad student in London and just came across this term Bitcoin. I think a lot of us, we entered from the Bitcoin white paper, and it was a similar story to me. I was like that annoying guy that was, bugging all my friends and classmates, being like, "Oh, have you heard about Bitcoin?" But I've kind of toned it down in recent years, and now I'm kind of, more knowledgeable, I think, than I was back then, certainly. And as for Wanchain, we are an R&D blockchain interoperability project. So what that manifests as really is cross-chain bridges today, at least as it comes to retail users. So we allow users to basically move an asset from one chain to a different chain in a decentralized, permissionless way. Right now, we support 30 chains. I'm happy to say, we've been running since 2017. Our first bridge on mainnet was actually 2018, so that makes us actually the first decentralized bridge to ever launch in blockchain. And we've gone, these 5+ years without any security incidents or anything like that. So that's basically Wanchain in a nutshell.
Thank you for the introduction about yourself as well as Wanchain. Now, unfortunately, a lot of platforms overlook Cardano. You guys recently actually integrated Cardano, not only allowing for bridge assets to come into Cardano, but also exposing other networks to the Cardano native token, or ADA. Can you explain or maybe touch on why you guys chose Cardano?
Yeah, absolutely. So, because Wanchain, we're from that 2016, 2017 era, it's similar to when Cardano started coming up. And so we've been, eyes on Cardano since then. Cardano, as you all know, they have a very kind of strong academic backing. And it's similar at Wanchain. We self-describe as an R&D project because we invest heavily in kind of developing standards and really kind of the academia of blockchain interoperability in order to build kind of industry best, interoperability solutions in terms of security. And one thing, that we like to use to differentiate ourselves from other bridges is that we don't only do EVM. There's a lot of bridges that do EVM to EVM, and we do that as well. It's very simple these days, but we've always put kind of special attention on non-EVMs. So that's why we bridge, to Bitcoin directly. We were actually the first Bitcoin to Ethereum decentralized bridge. We also do things like XRP Ledger, the Polkadot Relay chain, and most recently, as you mentioned, Cardano. Because our vision of interoperability is not just here's a bunch of chains that are basically the same thing, that do the same stuff, and we can get them to be connected. That's great and everything, but it's not what we want. We want different ideas, different perspectives, different infrastructure, different use cases, and then really have those be interoperable. So that's why we kind of go heavily into these non-EVMs. And specifically for Cardano, it's just a lot of respect for the tech, especially with how well researched it is. Everything's peer reviewed. This is really, really aligned with our own kind of worldview. And so at some point, about 1.5 years ago, we made the decision we're going to go make it happen with Cardano. We had to work hand in hand with IOG and also connected with Cardano Foundation as well. Needed actually some changes to be done to the Cardano blockchain itself. Most of these came in the Vassal hard fork, but also Valentine. And we're not going to get too technical right now, but once these things are in place, we're able to properly deploy. And now you have these decentralized, bidirectional bridges connecting Cardano to right now 11 chains, but our whole infrastructure is 30 chains, so it's a simple matter, if there's a demand to connect it to these other networks.
Interesting take there, and I like your reasoning as to why you came onto Cardano. Now, I covered the Wanchain integration about 2 or 3 months ago, I think is when the announcement came out. And I think two of the biggest assets that you guys bridged over were going to be stablecoins, USDT from Tether as well as USDC from Circle. Do you mind touching on the importance of getting access to those two stablecoins into other ecosystems outside of the EVM world?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the reason why we started with these assets, this is not a technical reason. This is really more just we kind of looked at the landscape and we wanted to, not overwhelm everyone and be like, here's 1,000 assets all at once, kind of be a little more strategic about it. And one thing that we noticed, speaking to not only IOG, but also just community members, Dapps and things like that, is that there was, especially in the last cycle, in the last bull, there was the lack of a fiat-backed stablecoin. Now, those of you who are familiar with, other ecosystems, USDT, USDC, absolutely huge, billions of dollars of liquidity. And, more importantly, very core to all of the kind of DeFi applications that are running on these chains and really a driver in adoption, at least to where we've gotten to today. And, this is why we started there. We wanted to make an easy way for this liquidity to come into Cardano. Also, work hand in hand with as many of the DeFi projects as we can, and really kind of put the pieces in place so that when the market does turn, that these really important pieces are there, so that the rise doesn't get short-circuited again because there's no fiat-backed stablecoins.
Awesome response to that, and I appreciate that. Now, in addition to USDC, USDT, we also brought in Bitcoin, Ethereum, WAN or WAN, and I think maybe one other asset that might be escaping me right now. DAI, there it is. Now, what other assets could we potentially expect to see? I know that you don't want to bring too many assets, but are there any other assets you guys are eyeing right now to bring to the bridge?
Yeah, so right now, we're putting a lot of our efforts into trying to build up the liquidity and use cases for these assets on Cardano. Liquid, the lending platform, they've been really good about supporting these types of assets. Also, kind of Spectrum Finance, one of these dexes, and Wing Riders, they also all have incentivized farming pools for these assets. So, we're doing different types of co-marketing campaigns and these types of things to try to build organic liquidity and utility for these assets. At the same time, we've been also speaking to a lot of smaller projects on Cardano as well, that they themselves have bridging needs. And so we've helped, I think, 3 or 4 of them make their own token, which might have been a Cardano native asset to begin with, bridge to, BNB chain, Polygon, Ethereum. So we've done that as well. Now, the way we kind of got in touch with these small projects is they just reached out to us. They said, hey, we have this need, can you help us? We don't charge any integration fees or anything like that. So we're like, sure, of course we can. So to answer, the question that you asked me, I would say this is how we want to approach it. We want to make sure that we're servicing a need. From a technical point of view, any ERC20 token, any network coin on any of these 30 networks that we currently bridge to can all come to Cardano. They can be there next week. But if there's something specific that the Cardano community wants, that they themselves see there's a gap in the market, in the ecosystem, just reach out to us and then we can make it happen to you. One thing that we're looking ourselves is maybe some different stablecoins that are not pegged to the USD. Maybe something like the Euro coin, just to kind of, even though USD is still king in terms of fiat-backed stablecoins, just to add a little more flavor and nuance to the kind of use cases that you can build.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to see. I've actually gotten quite a few comments surrounding other pegged assets other than the US dollar, which I think, again, like you mentioned, is the king right now. Anytime that somebody talks about a stable coin, it's almost like the US dollar comes to mind, but that could be a peg towards any other asset when people mention the word stable coin. Now, there is a question that I do want to ask, and this might be a hot seat type of question, but I'm still going to go ahead and shoot. A lot of people are wary about bridged assets in the fact that, once you do bridge an asset, that you may not be able to recoup your original asset if there's some sort of hack or if there's just some sort of, what is the word that I'm looking for here?
Security incident or fraud.
Yes, exactly. Security breach or fraud that occurs, So what does Wanchain have in place right now to make sure that users' assets are still available in the event that something were to happen with them through the use of the bridge, etc.?
So yeah, there's a few things in place, but first let me say, not the hot seat. This is an important topic, and we've all seen the headlines. Bridges over the last couple of years, they've really kind of taken it on the chin, and rightfully so, because there's been a lot of hacks and a lot of outright fraud in some cases. And so let me just start by saying, we have a long track record. That's probably the first thing I would point to. We've never suffered any type of security incident. We've been around for years, and we've bridged to all sorts of different chains. That's kind of the one thing that can't be faked by other bridges. You can't really fake your track record. It's all visible out there for the world to see. Secondarily, our infrastructure is quite different from other bridges. Now, this is often a difficult thing to kind of comfort users with because we want to get to the point where users don't need to understand the intricacies of what's happening behind the bridge. We want them to just be like, I want to move this from this chain to that chain, and that's the function of a bridge. It should be as simple as that. It's too much to ask for users to understand the intricacies of every single bridge. But not all bridges are created equal. Some of them are centralized, some of them are decentralized. Some of them claim to be decentralized, but maybe it's not very robust. Some of them, are more robust. I don't know if you want me to get into exactly how the Wanchain bridge works right now, but I am confident in saying that it is industry best. It's permissionless, it's decentralized, and I would rather just give users maybe some tips or advice. If you're looking at which bridges to use, it's going to be too much to kind of read through all the docs. You don't even know if what's written in the docs is accurate. My advice is go see if you can run a bridge node. That'll answer a lot of your questions. Who is actually conducting these cross-chain transactions? Can you be decentralized if you're not permissionless? If you're permissionless, okay, go find out how to run a node. That's an easier question to answer. And you might be surprised to find that for most bridges, you won't be able to run a bridge node yourself. They'll claim decentralization, they may have a decentralized mechanism, but if you still have a guardian deciding who's allowed to participate, it's just for show. But with Wanchain's case, it is permissionless. You right now could go and you'll have a bridge node running up, a couple hours probably. Not too long, but you'll have to read the docs. We don't want you going in blind, but anyone can go run a node. I'll stop it here. But if you want me to go into more technical detail, just let me know, or else I'll be rambling.
No, that is fine. And I maybe want to talk about security a little bit more and then jump back over into running a bridge node. So in terms of security, let's just say worst case scenario, there is some sort of hack, some sort of exploit. Is there some sort of insurance or some sort of safety guarantee that Wanchain is able to ensure that users' funds can still be recouped in the event that something were to happen? Again, worst case scenario, hypothetical here.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of mechanisms in place. The first is a consequence of how our architecture is built. So we call them universal bridges. So for example, if you're bringing USDT into Cardano, right now I think it's we allow 10 different chains to, you can take your USDT from 10 different chains and bring it into Cardano. On Cardano, it ends up as the same version of USDT. So just because you came in, let's say, from Ethereum, doesn't mean you have to exit to Ethereum. You can exit to another chain where there's real or native USDT issued by Tether. So the first thing is, okay, if, let's say, one of these smart contracts or a different part of the mechanism on one of these other chains gets compromised, you can still exit to another chain. And you're still going to have full value, full redemption, one-to-one for the original asset. That's kind of the first, let's say, application level kind of piece of protection. Then we have kind of more core to the infrastructure itself. All assets that are minted by the Wanchain bridge are over-collateralized. So while the bridge nodes are permissionless, the one requirement is that they need to stake assets in order to perform the duties as a bridge node. And these assets that these bridge nodes stake, they serve to over-collateralize the bridged assets. So when you bridge USDT or USDC to Cardano, you get it one for one, it's redeemable, but there's an additional layer, like a financial security layer, that's also there over-collateralizing these assets. So in kind of a worst case scenario, it's the bridge nodes essentially that will have to get slashed and protect the user. So it's not the end user that suffers the consequences.
Thank you again for that. And again, while it's not an ideal scenario, it's reassuring to myself to hear you explain, that there are some mechanisms in place to make sure that the end user is always made whole in the event that something like that were to happen. And
if I can just add one thing, it is something that we think about a lot. We take security extremely seriously. I mentioned earlier we kind of self-identify as an R&D project. a big reason for that is, we participate in organizations such as Intersect, which you're all probably paying attention to right now. But other blockchain ecosystems such as Ethereum, they have similar organizations. Probably the Intersect of Ethereum is called the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Same idea, same type of mission. And so we're also very active in that organization specifically. Wanchain's VP of Engineering, he is the head of interoperability at the EEA, so we work with a lot of these kind of different members to kind of come up with these best practices and kind of to design something that is as secure as possible. So it's something that we're actively working on all the time. And for Cardano specifically, obviously we have noticed there's been a bit of hesitancy, a bit of fear and distrust of bridges in general. And so, fair enough. Who am I to say that it's not okay, after all the hacks that have happened to other bridges? But we are also working with some other ecosystem projects on trying to come up with even application layers outside of the core bridge infrastructure itself, that could be able to maybe help this situation.
Yeah, I think education is a key piece, and obviously that's what you're doing here, educating me and the viewers here as to all the security benefits and security measures that Wanchain is implemented to make sure that, again, people can be made whole and that they can actually trust your bridging platform. Now, I want to close this interview down with two questions. One was actually about node operators. Do you mind touching on how they're able to make revenue and how that's sustained, and also how the Wanchain platform or protocol makes revenue?
Sure, so let me start with the bridge nodes. So the bridge nodes themselves, they just earn yield, basically. So they have to stake some assets to become bridge nodes, and they're earning an APR. It's paid out in Wanchain, and this is just built into the tokenomics and emissions of the project. So they're incentivized in that way to perform the bridging. And in terms of the Wanchain protocol itself, so a lot of it right now is subsidized by the Wanchain Foundation, but the pieces are already in place, to monetize it when we decide that is the time, and essentially will come in the form of, per transaction bridge fees. So when the user conducts a cross-chain transaction, there will theoretically be a bridge fee there. Right now, some of you who have tried the bridge may have noticed that fees are not equal depending on which chains you're bridging to and from. So this is likely always to be the case. But right now, like I said, most of these fees are subsidized by the Wanchain Foundation, and really what's there is just to cover gas, because our solution's basically one click, maybe 2 clicks, but the user themselves, they only pay the fee or the gas on the source chain to trigger the beginning of the cross-chain transaction. But the bridge nodes themselves, they incur the gas or the network fee on the destination chain as well. So if it's cheap chains or low-cost chains, right now we'll just subsidize it. If you're doing it like to Ethereum or something like that, Ethereum gas fee is far too expensive for us to just pay for that for everybody. So in that case, there are already bridge fees. That can kind of give you a picture of what it's going to look like long term.
Got it. I appreciate the answer on both of those aspects. The very last thing I want to ask you, is there any alpha that you're willing to share here with the Cardano community?
Sure. So now that Cardano is connected to our cross-chain infrastructure, I think I mentioned right now, I think it's 11 networks that are directly connected to Cardano. First of all, this is, again, not a technical limitation. We connect just about 30 networks, both EVM and non-EVM. And so, these can all quite simply now be connected to Cardano. But even more exciting than that is that now that you're kind of part of the Wanchain cross-chain family, all of our cross-chain products, will now become relevant to Cardano. So the next major upgrade that you're probably going to see in terms of the Cardano bridge is that we'll move beyond just token bridges. So right now, we're moving things like BTC and USDT, USDC, etc. We can also do NFTs. The next piece will be general cross-chain message passing. So we're kind of rolling that out. We're rolling it bit by bit on different chains, but now that Cardano is part of that, it's going to make it to Cardano as well. This will make it far more flexible for developers who want to come up with, let's say, more logic-fueled or complex cross-chain scenarios, because they can build the logic into their own smart contracts and still kind of benefit from Wanchain security. And so these type of more flexible products are also going to begin to benefit the Cardano community.
Yeah, cross-chain or bridge NFTs, cross-chain NFTs, however you want to call it. Yeah. That really piques my interest there. I really appreciate the insight today, Tem, not only about what Wanchain is doing, but about the security and some of the alpha. Any closing thoughts for any projects that are looking to get integrated or just maybe get in contact with you to be supported via Wanchain?
Yeah, so to the projects, we don't charge any integration fees to any projects that want to go cross-chain. So you just reach out, you come to us on Twitter, on Telegram, on Discord. Just reach out. We can help you out. To the users, I understand there's definitely a lot of concerns about security. That's why we've talked about this topic as well. We're very happy to talk about these topics. If you have any things that you're not sure about, whether it's about Wanchain's bridges themselves or just interoperability in general, also reach out on these channels. Even if you just want to chat, even if you just want to be like, well, what about this? We'll be happy to do our best to answer your questions.
Yeah, thank you for your transparency and your honesty here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got Tem representing the Wanchain bridge that has now incorporated Cardano into their ecosystem. As always, if you guys found today's video to be helpful, I'd appreciate you guys if you could tap the like button. If it's your first time stopping by Dapp Central, you guys want more content like this, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions for myself or Tem about Wanchain or Cardano being listed as a part of their bridge, then please make sure to go ahead and leave a comment down below. That said, and as always, we'll catch you guys in the next video.